Hi, I'm Steve with the Shoebill Studio, and this is a review of Cthulhu Death May Die, Season 3, Fear of the Unknown. Functionally, this is the new core set. This is the 2.0 release, more or less. It comes with a new mode of gameplay called the Unknown Monster Mode, which increases difficulty on a couple different variable levels, but also introduces the absolutely fantastic relic system that is there to sort of balance out the difficulty of unknown monsters, but also can be used in a standalone variant that decreases the difficulty of the game just across the board by giving you some extra superpowers that we'll get into later. It's important to note that this new core set is fully standalone. If you want to play Cthulhu Death May Die, all you need is just this box. But if you want to play Season 4, you will need a copy of the core set. This box adds 6 new episodes, 10 new investigators, 2 elder ones, 7 monster types, and of course, the cultists. So let's talk about what works, what doesn't, and whether this is just more of the same or a meaningful evolution of the core experience. First off, I really don't want to understate my enjoyment of this game. Honestly, it feels really great to play. The turns are quick, the structure is clear, and every episode has a slightly different vibe. So even though it's a big old dice chucker, it doesn't really feel that repetitive. One of the best things about this system is that it doesn't really waste your time. The objectives are clear, and the game just sort of hums along. But underneath that simplicity, there's just so much chewy, lovely tension and decision making. So let's talk about the real star, which is the holy trinity of sanity, stress, and wounds. This triangle of resources is where so much of the tension lives in this game. Every single action you take presses on one of these levers. First, sanity is both a loss condition and it's also how you level up your skills. If you run out, well, you'll die, but as you amass rolls with tendrils, you'll progress along your sanity track, just like in every other iteration of this game. If you cross the red spiral, well, you've leveled up. You choose a skill to upgrade and you become more powerful, but you also get closer to dying. To complicate this further, you've also triggered your personal insanity every time you cross one of these thresholds. And you can do your best to sort of trigger it at an optimal time, but sometimes it doesn't go your way and, wild stuff ensues. The second resource, stress, is what lets you re-roll dice or activate key decisions in the discovery deck, which is unique to each episode. And it's kind of like your lifeline. It's a thing that allows you to modify terrible outcomes, but only to a point. And it also burns out quite quickly. You have to be careful to not overspend this and then be left at the end of your turn with no way to mitigate all of the things that will be coming at you in the Mythos phase or during your Elder God activation. And then finally, wounds, well, they're exactly what they sound like. It's more or less a health pool. If you run out, you die. So you've got this balancing act where you're pushing your sanity to get stronger and you're spending stress to mitigate overages in both sanity and in wounds, and you're kind of hoping to not bankrupt any one resource too quickly. It's so good. The feeling of I need to go just a little bit more insane to get more dice and beat the Elder God, but if I do it too quickly, if I mistime this and I spend too much sanity trying to take out maybe a mini boss in the middle of the map, then I'll die. And that tension is peak Death May Die. Season 3 leans into this with the addition of relics, which are powerful items that scale off your insanity level. So once you pass that third red spiral insanity threshold, they flip over to their more powerful side and the real fun begins. Next up are the episodes, and these episodes are all pretty solid. They each have a mechanical twist. Maybe you're moving cursed items or collecting ingredients for a bomb. Maybe you're just harvesting meat from dead cultists, to feed a beast in a pit. Each episode changes how you approach your team comp and your upgrade choices within that team. And building out an ideal team for a specific Elder God episode mashup is one of my favorite things to do in Death May Die. It's like drafting counters in Dota. I'm terrible at Dota. Anyways, turn the volume up to 11 here as far as the modularity is concerned, because Cthulhu Death May Die's modularity is absolutely nuts. You can pair any episode with any Elder God with whatever 1 to 5 investigators you so choose. So the permutations are actually meaningful. It changes the pacing, the pressure, and the decision space within each instance that you play. And a big part of this is largely due to the fact that each one of these components, the Elder God, the Episode, or the Investigators, have environmental effects often that end up having like real interplay with one another. Azathoth, for example, speeds the game up slightly and can make some episodes feel like a runaway car chase, whereas Tsathoggua hampers your stress and your wound management with fatigue, making your tactical decision-making within any given episode less frantic, but feel a lot heavier. And then there's the discovery decks, which are also scenario specific. And these give every episode its own little flavor of narrative, as well as an upgrade economy. I love that. It's a smart way to make each mission feel handcrafted without needing an app on your iPad or a thick campaign book. On top of the fact that it reinforces the everything good comes at a terrible price vibe that is omnipresent in Death May Die. These discovery deck cards require you often to spend stress or wounds to get the rewards that they offer you. And if you can't do that, there's often also a downside to not being able to spend those resources to get the rewards. And so these mechanics also interact with the Elder Gods and also the investigators that you've got. For instance, Tsathoggwa's effects on stress pools. That affects every episode as far as your ability to spend stress to get and recoup any of the rewards out of the discovery deck. There's just very few games that I've played that have this amount of seamless integration between disparate sort of elements that make up a cohesive gameplay experience. It's really, really, really awesome to see come to life on the table before you. So who would have thought that modularity would be this dope? It definitely was never a thing that I thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna talk about modularity as a positive in a board game review ever in my life. But here we are. The modularity of Cthulhu Death May Die is a fantastic aspect that really enriches this game in a way that is very surprising, honestly. I'm going to be looking for modularity in board games now for months. Next up, let's talk about the investigators, and these investigators are great. Just like every other iteration of Death May Die, the investigators have a unique skill as well as 2 others from the shared skill pool, stuff like Brawler, Marksman, Arcane Mastery, etc. And one of the best things about the way that these investigators are designed is you don't really need a guide or anything to teach you how to play these. You don't have to go online and figure out, what is the most optimal strategy. It is more or less apparent from reading your investigator's character sheet. You can just pick a character and start learning how they work. And over time, you'll start to see how certain skill combos work with certain episodes and with certain Elder Gods, modularity again, and it feels really satisfying. It's approachable, but there's a real depth there, especially if you plan on playing the hard mode with these unknown monsters and the randomized spawn points of the Elder Gods. So regardless, some investigators are clearly built to fight, and others are better at sneaking or healing or just manipulating mobs on the board, but every one of them feels playable and most of them are very, very fun. One of my favorite new investigators is Sandra, and Sandra has the Relic Seeker ability, so it's very specific to the new relic system that is available in Core Set 2.0. The starting level of this skill doubles the number of relics that you have access to draft from at the beginning of the game, and then there are some other awesome upgrades that you can spec into that give you bonuses based on how many relics you have, as well as reducing the cost of cards from the discovery deck, meaning that you don't necessarily have to spend stress to get the rewards when you investigate. And then the final highest upgraded level of Relic Seeker is crazy. Instead of investigating, you can just grab a free relic that has been transformed, giving you even more like crazy abilities and skills to play with by the end of the game. I mean, that sort of thing is something that just like epic Elder God battle moments are made of. So Sandra is definitely a very interesting standout amongst the new investigators. Quick pause here. If this review has been helpful so far to you, consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. It definitely helps us be able to make more content like this on a regular basis. Okay, so now let's talk about what doesn't work so well. And first up, there are times when this game just craters. It can be very swingy. you get a few Mythos cards that chain, into one another, and all of a sudden the Elder One pops out earlier than you expected, and your team is scattered and not prepared. You haven't completed the ritual, and everybody's dead before you can even finish completing your next thought. Second, and I'm a stickler for this sort of stuff, and it's the UI around the Elder cards just is bad. There are 4 phase cards, and you're flipping between them as your Elder One advances on their advancement track, and then depending upon what phase of the final fight you're in, you may have multiple Elder One cards out at a time. But the board really only gives you a space for a single one. So this thing is a table hog of table hogs. Where are you putting all 4 of these cards by the time you're in phase 4? In addition to the fact that I understand that you can't condense all of the text from all 4 of the cards onto a single card, but the UI for the Elder God cards just feels sort of like it's a train that's gone off its tracks. I've got to look between 4 different cards and make sure that I'm doing all of the sort of advancement track stuff in order and making sure I'm not missing anything spread out between 4 different items. Not my favorite. And while we're on the topic of UI, let's talk about these player boards. There are no plastic trays that come with this core set. There are no indents, it's just flat cardstock. You breathe on them wrong and your tokens go flying. And CMON knows how to fix this. They just didn't. They actually even made trays that I think were part of the first Kickstarter campaign that were available in maybe the Unspeakable box, so like the Stretch Goals collection depository thing that you have to pay $300 for at this point. Or you have to go to Etsy and you have to buy some third-party game accoutrement, to make sure that your pieces don't fly all over the place. Playing solo with 3 investigators, anytime I would lean over the table to move monsters on the map, I was bumping my health and my stress bars, or the bottom row of my skills. And I've got 3 hands. I can't remember where everybody's health is or stress between each round. That it's changing all of the time. So the decision to not include trays in this game is a little bit confusing to me, especially considering how often CMON does it for other titles. I'm sure it comes down to shipping costs and what it costs to actually produce this product, but when it's present in Massive Darkness 2 and basically any recent Zombicide title, it feels like a missed opportunity to execute on the high-endness of a game like this that is full of so many gorgeous miniatures. It's also worth noting that there's not really a campaign or a story arc, so it's all pretty episodic, and if that's something that you really want out of a game, you're looking for another Gloomhaven or something like that, that is not what this is. Next up for things that don't necessarily work super well, and this one is because I don't think it's explained very well in the manual, and it's the Unknown Monster mode. This is a feature that's available now in Season 3, and it lets you add extra monsters into any episode, and it's really cool. But in practice, it's very, very, very brutal. Even one of these monsters can tilt the entire game. They're very aggressive. They activate along with your Elder One advancing through their advancing track, and so they are sort of targeting you and kind of coming after you the entire map. They clutter the map, they make it harder to move around. You end with a lot more turns in defending yourself than you would normally. I mean, that depends on what monster you've chosen, but it certainly reduces your action economy efficiency. And it usually requires pretty specific planning to beat. So if you're not somebody that has spent a good amount of time with this game, it's definitely not a mode that I would suggest that you utilize. But on the other hand, if you played a lot of Season 1 and 2, this might just be the hard mode that you're looking for. But for new players, I think it's too much. And they don't really tell you that in the manual. They're just sort of like, cool new mode that has a little bit more difficulty. It's a lot more difficult. So be prepared and really think through your team comp as well as sort of your action plan on a per turn basis if you're interested in playing Unknown Monster mode. That being said, relics are technically part of the Unknown Monster mode, and they are fantastic, like I've already said. But this is not the part of the video where we talk about the things that work well. This is the part that we talk about the things that I don't think work that well. And the Unknown Monster mode itself with the monsters, it's kind of the thing that, you try once and you say, okay, I don't know if I'm really into this. All right, the biggest thing that I am confused and concerned about regarding this game is a skill, and that skill is Arcane Mastery. Arcane Mastery is way too good. This is a common pool skill that lets you turn elder signs on your dice rolls into successes. And by level 4, each elder sign is 2 successes, and you heal stress when you use them. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I have not beaten an elder one without somebody on my team running Arcane Mastery. It's been that central to my victories, and that's kind of a problem. When one skill becomes mandatory, it starts to narrow your options, and that isn't as fun as, I think having everything be a viable approach. I'd love to see this rebalanced, or at least to have other skills sort of catch up to it in their utility as well. So here's the deal. Season 3 doesn't reinvent Death May Die. Honestly, this game is more or less 90% intact from the original 2 seasons. But it doesn't have to reinvent anything. The core system here is incredible. It's fantastic. This is one of the most beloved games of the last decade. And what this box does is provide many more hours of new adventures for you to experience, so many combinations of Elder Gods, episodes, and investigators, all on top of the fact that everything in this standalone box is compatible with seasons 1 and 2. The Unknown Monster system allows you to bring monsters from any season into any episode, and Elder Gods and Investigators can be played in any episode regardless of the mode that you're playing in. So tons of options. There are definitely a few flaws here, but none of them are actual deal breakers, and none of them really affect the actual gameplay at all. You can work around the clunky UI, you can avoid the Unknown Monster mode or sort of house rule it into something that works for you, and the same can be said of Arcane Mastery. But for me, I kind of need a little help to beat this game. It's hard. So Arcane Mastery is something that you can make your own call about whether or not you leave it at full power or you rein it in to suit your difficulty needs. So who is this for? Well, if you already love Cthulhu Death May Die, obviously you're going to love Season 3. And if you've never played it before, if you're brand new to the series, this is a great place to start your journey. But if you're just, a normal board gamer that's unsure about getting into this lauded game system, consider the types of games you're currently enjoying. This is not Zombicide, it's not Gloomhaven, and it's definitely not like Castles of Burgundy or Feast of Odin. If you enjoy co-op games that are dripping in theme, are fairly easy to learn and teach, and boast medium-light action economy puzzles, well, then Death May Die might be for you. If you're a Lovecraft fan, you're going to enjoy this. And if you're coming from like Arkham Horror LCG or like the OG Arkham Horror games, I think you'll enjoy the tension and mechanics of this game. But if you hate dice rolling, obviously avoid this. You should definitely go check out Bloodborne, the board game, instead. It has some similarities, but no dice and a super snappy tactical combat system that uses a 6-card deck. It's fantastic. I've done a review on that as well. Check that out here. In all honesty, Season 3 is a great core set, and I'd recommend it to just about any board game enthusiast. That's it for our review of Cthulhu Death May Die Fear the Unknown Season 3. And if this review helped you out, do me a favor and hit the like button. If you want more content like this, deep dive board game reviews, subscribe to the channel, and we try to post at least one long form video each week, and sometimes we squeak out a few more here and there. If you've played Fear of the Unknown, drop your favorite scenario, episode, or investigator in the comments below. I definitely want to hear how you guys have messed around with the Unknown Monster mode. Did you survive? Did you have to use Arcane Mastery? Either way, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay sane out there, or don't. Cheers.